The council meeting of January 19th, 2021 will now please come to order. Due to this meeting being a virtual meeting, council is asking if anyone who would like to address council who is participating through their computer, please use the chat feature now to let Clerk Massarello know that you have a comment, and you will be called on during the comment portion of the evening. If you are calling on a phone or you do not have access to the chat feature, we will give directions during the public comment portion of our meeting. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mrs. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Broussard?
Present.
Mr. Glassburn?
Here.
Ms. Seaman?
Here.
Mr. Kelly?
Here.
Mr. Limpert?
Present.
Mr. Schuman?
Here.
Ms. Williamson?
Here. If there are no additions or corrections, the council meeting minutes of December 15th, 2020 are approved as written. If there are no additions or corrections, the special council meeting minutes of December 22nd, 2020 are approved as written. The following legislation will be considered for suspension of the rules this evening. On second reading, resolutions 2020-158 and 2020-21-1. And on first reading, resolution 2020-21-8, resolution 2020-21-9, and resolution 2020-21-11. Mayor Kennedy, do you have a report this evening?
Madam President, no report this evening.
Thank you. Law Director Garreau, do you have a report this evening?
Thank you, Madam President. A couple of matters to take note of. In the matter of the State XREL AN versus the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office in the City of North Olmsted, it's a case that I've reported out on several occasions. It was dismissed once, it was dismissed twice. In the Court of Appeals, it was affirmed, the dismissal, and that matter is now headed to the Ohio Supreme Court. So I will be representing the City of North Olmsted before the Ohio Supreme Court on a direct appeal from the 8th District Court of Appeals. Briefing, we're several weeks away from briefing, but I anticipate an oral argument at some point down in Columbus. I'll keep you advised of that. Also, we have the matter of Kelly Patrick versus City of North Olmsted in the Ohio Court of Claims. This is a new area where several years ago they allowed for public records cases to be commenced in the Ohio Court of Claims. Part of the idea was they could clear them out, move them along more expeditiously. That matter, January 22nd, is set for mediation at 10 a.m. Law Department will be working on that matter to resolve that particular issue. Also, coming up on the 27th, I'll be working with the mayor and Director Kopfer, among others, in a presentation before Moody's to deal with our bond rating. We've done that a couple other times, but we'll be ready to go to see if we can do right for the city. Carrie's always done a good job at that before, and anticipate we'll do well this time as well. So that concludes my report. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Finance Director Kopfer, do you have a report this evening? Don't forget to unmute, Director.
You think I'd get used to this. The Finance Department has been busy closing out 2020, and we've been doing our bond document preparation, our POS, preliminary offering statement. And as Mr. Gross said, we'll be making our ratings presentation to Moody's on the 27th, and we have to have all that information to them before then. Additionally, we are getting the W-2s and 1099s out, which are a timely matter. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Moving into council committee reports, the Committee of the Whole met on January 12th at 8:08 p.m. Present were council members Broussard, Schuman, Limpert, Heeman, Glassburn, and Kelly. The mayor, finance director, law director, human resources director, planning and development director, and guests. And that evening, the Committee of the Whole asked questions regarding Munis and iWorks software. We anticipate holding another Committee of the Whole meeting regarding the same subject very soon, and the meeting ended at 8:33 p.m. And that concludes my report. Councilman Broussard, Chairman of the Public Safety, Health, and Welfare Committee, do you have a report this evening?
No report, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Williamson, Chairwoman of the Building, Zoning, and Development Committee, do you have a report this evening?
Madam President, I will defer to Vice Chair Limpert as he sat in last week for our meetings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Williamson. I do have a report. The Building, Zoning, and Development Committee met on January 12th at 7:10 p.m. Present were committee members Limpert and Schuman, council members Jones, Broussard, Glassburn, Heeman, Kelly, the mayor, law director, HR director, and planning director, as well as guests. On the agenda were Ordinance 2020-77, which was to amend 1135.02 of the zoning code of the city of North Olmsted, entitled accessory uses, for the purpose of eliminating the 200-foot residential lot setback requirement for the animal shelters used for chickens. This was previously discussed in committee with Mr. Schuman, the sponsor of legislation, proposing changes to the original amendment based on feedback from council and building zoning appeals to 45 foot and a maximum of 6 foot in height for chicken coops to a 50 square foot size constraint. The amendment also required that chicken coops be removed if not used within 188 days. There was additional discussion on whether the run must be covered or not, as well as if there were any requirements related to building materials. Mr. Adam Dorncott also provided commentary as a resident who has experience raising chickens. Mr. Garreau provided some thoughts on further definition to the run area, which was consistent with what the Vice Chair, Mr. Limpert, was looking for. And Mr. Grussenbauer from the Building Department noted that there were not restrictions on materials and it would be covered in accordance with the code on unattached structures and property maintenance code. The Vice Chair asked for some additional definition around the coop before we move forward, and the decision was a vote of 2-0 to hold in committee. Next on the agenda was Ordinance 2020-145, which was an ordinance providing for the amendment of Chapter 1135, 1 and 2 family resident districts of the codified ordinances of the City of North Olmsted. Mrs. Lieber outlined the number of changes to the code, which included changes on accessory uses of signage, storage buildings, decks and patio, setbacks, recreational vehicles, parked in driveway, the time for recreational vehicles to be parked in driveways, a language on prohibition of carports, temporary ramps to allow relief for property owners seeking to install ramps for the purpose of accessibility, and establishing standards regarding their placement. In regards to the lot area coverage and width portion of the code, recommended changes with maximum lot coverage to help clarify all accessory structures contributing to the calculation of the rear yard lot coverage, entrance features identifying where air conditioning units and generators may be placed on residential lots, and replacing street line with front line as far as terminology. After Mrs. Lieber laid out the proposed changes and rationale based on the number of variances requested and received related to these items, the committee and council asked some clarifying questions and recommended by a vote of 2-0 to hold in committee to allow for any follow-on questions or amendments due to the large number of changes. Last on the agenda was Ordinance 2021-2, which was a nuisance abatement, and it's an ordinance authorizing the Director of Human Services to request proposals from qualified individuals to provide nuisance abatement services for 2021, and further authorizing the mayor to enter into agreement as such. Ms. Scalo explained this legislation authorizes us to solicit RFPs for property maintenance, nuisance abatement services, and is an annual contract. The motion passed by a vote of 2-0 to move forward, and the meeting completed at 8:08 p.m. Madam President, this concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilman Schuman, Chairman of the Finance Committee, do you have a report this evening?
I do. Thank you, Madam President. Finance met at 6:50 on 1/12/21. Present were committee members Schuman, Broussard, and Kelly, along with the council president, council members Heeman and Glassburn, directors Garreau, Lieber, and Gallo, along with Katie Seeley from the building department. We were there to discuss 2021-1, which is a resolution authorizing the mayor to accept a gift card donation offered by MJS Life Services in the amount of $2,400 to be used by the Oxcart Pantry and declaring an emergency. As per Director Lieber, this is a donation of gift cards from a health consulting and billing company, MJS. This was voted to recommend to full council 3-0. It's on suspension this evening. Next, we met 1/19/2021 at 7:30. All of committee, Schuman, Broussard, and Kelly were there, along with all of council, council president, the mayor, law director, Director Lieber, Director Kopfer. We discussed 2021-58. This is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with iWork Systems for a work order management program for storm, streets, and wastewater treatment plant operations and declaring an emergency. The purpose of this meeting was to get 2020-158 on tonight's agenda, as we spent a good deal of time on this subject at last week's committee of the whole, and it was recommended to pull out of, it was recommended to full council 3-0, and the meeting concluded at 7:34. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Limpert, Chairman of the Streets and Transportation Committee, do you have a report this evening?
No report this evening, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Heeman, Chairwoman of the Environmental Control Committee, do you have a report this evening?
Thank you, Madam President. I do not have a report from the Environmental Control Committee, but I do have two things I would like to report on. One of them is 2021-3, which I did not report on at our last meeting, and 2021-11, which was discussed this evening, if that time would be appropriate for now.
You may do so in place of your original committee report.
Thank you, Madam President. 2021-3 was discussed at our caucus meeting of January 5th, 2021. And during the caucus meeting, the merits of that were unfortunately not discussed. We got onto some other subjects. So I'm submitting the following, that 2021-3 is a temporary indoor dining program which permits an established licensed food business to temporarily make use of vacant commercial retail space that is within an approximate distance of 250 feet from the business, essentially within the same retail plaza. The business will be responsible for adherence to the Board of Health and State of Ohio regulations for operation of a temporary indoor dining space. To assist a business with a temporary indoor dining space, the City of North Olmsted and the Cuyahoga County Board of Health have set forth guidelines which are attached as Exhibit A to that resolution and are now available on the city's website for those businesses to access. I would like to thank our Law Director, Michael Garreau, and Mr. James Armstrong from the Cuyahoga County Board of Health for working with me for several months on that resolution, and of course, which concluded, as we know, in its passage. Thank you, Madam President, for that. 2021-11, or would you like me to wait?
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
Thank you. 2021-11 is a resolution establishing a program for financial assistance for small businesses in the city of North Olmsted and declaring an emergency. 2021-11 was written in part as a companion piece of legislation to 2021-3, the temporary indoor dining, as it could offer the financial assistance a business might need to utilize the temporary indoor dining. 2021-11 was also designed to be a standalone piece of legislation to offer business relief to small businesses, which could be defined as businesses that are as small as 1 to 2 employees, but not larger than 50 employees. There are various criteria, and our Mr. Glassborn, my colleague Mr. Glassborn, explained the program in detail and also outlined the need for business assistance during the pandemic and until more vaccinations become available to the general public. The program allows for businesses to apply for up to $2,500 in assistance for things such as rent, payroll, and other approved business expenses for businesses in operation prior to April 1st, 2019. The program also excludes several types of businesses such as financial institutions, chain businesses, schools, home-based businesses, e-commerce, and several others as well. The application process includes an array of financial documents and will be overseen by a 3-member board composed of a member appointed by the mayor, a member appointed by council, and a member appointed by council based on business, trade, or professional experience, such as a trustee or board member of our North Olmsted Chamber of Commerce. And that concludes my report, Madam President, on those 2 pieces. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Glassburn, Chairman of the Intergovernmental Relations Committee, do you have a report this evening?
No report this evening, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Kelly, Chairman of the Recreation, Public Parks and Buildings Committee, do you have a report this evening?
No report this evening, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any letters or communications to come before council at this time?
No, Madam President.
Thank you. Thank you to our guests for joining us at our meeting tonight. At this time, council will hear comments from the public. Please remember to state your full name and address for our clerk. If you live in a city other than North Olmsted, please state what city you are from. We will start with those who have notified us via the chat feature who would like to comment. When you are recognized by our clerk, please unmute your phone and start your comment when prompted. Council Clerk Mazzarolo, has anyone notified you via chat?
No, Madam President.
Thank you. At this time, if there is anyone on the computer or phone who would like to comment, please address council now. Seeing no comments from our audience, we will now move into legislation.
Legislation on 3rd reading. Resolution 2020-155, introduced by Mayor Kennedy. A resolution dispensing with the formal RFP process and authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Pradco to provide pre-employment testing and police and fire promotional testing services and declaring an emergency.
Madam President,
Councilman Broussard.
I move for the adoption of Resolution 2020-155 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt 2020-155 made by Councilman Broussard, seconded by Councilwoman Williamson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Broussard?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Ms. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Mr. Schuman?
Yes.
2020-155 is adopted with a vote of 7-0.
Resolution 2020-156, introduced by Mayor Kennedy. A resolution dispensing with the formal RFP process and authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Personnel Selection Services to provide entry-level and written promotional testing services, pre-employment testing, and police and fire promotional testing services, and declaring an emergency.
Madam President,
Councilman Broussard.
I move for the adoption of Resolution 2020-156 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt Resolution 2020-156 made by Councilman Broussard, seconded by Councilwoman Williamson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Broussard?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Ms. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Schuman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Resolution 2020-156 is adopted with a vote of 7-0.
Ordinance 2020-157, introduced by Mayor Kennedy. An ordinance granting an easement to the Cleveland Electric Illuminating Company for the installation and maintenance of electric service at the North Olmsted Recreation Center property and declaring an emergency.
Madam President,
Councilman Kelly.
I move for the adoption of 2020-157 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt ordinance 2020-157 made by Councilman Kelly, seconded by Councilwoman Heeman. Roll call, please.
Mr. Kelly? Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Schuman?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Mr. Broussard?
Yes.
Ordinance 2020-157 is adopted with a vote of 7-0.
Legislation on second reading. Resolution 2020-158, introduced by Mayor Kennedy. A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with iWork Systems for a work order management program for storm, streets, and wastewater treatment plant operations and declaring an emergency.
Madam President,
Councilman Schuman.
I'd like to move that we suspend the rule requiring 3 readings. This was delayed in part because we had a committee of the whole meeting about this and to discuss this and the Munis. And we need to get the storm crew using this software as soon as possible. Ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings made by Councilman Schuman, seconded by Councilman Broussard. Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuman?
Yes.
Mr. Broussard?
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Ms. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
That motion passes with a vote of 7-0. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to address council regarding resolution 2020-158, please do so now.
Seeing or hearing none, I'm going to move that we pass 2020-158. Ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt resolution 2020-158 made by Councilman Schuman, seconded by Councilman Broussard. Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuman?
Yes.
Mr. Broussard?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Ms. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Resolution 2020-158 is adopted with a vote of 7-0.
Resolution 2021-1, introduced by Mayor Kennedy. A resolution authorizing the mayor to accept a gift card donation offered by MJS Life Services in the amount of $2,400 to be used by the Oxcart Pantry and declaring an emergency.
Madam President,
Councilman Schuman.
I'm going to move to, I'd like to move to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings as this was heard in committee, and you don't want to refuse a donation when it's in your hand. Ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings made by Councilman Schuman, seconded by Councilman Broussard. Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuman?
Yes.
Mr. Broussard?
Yes.
Ms. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
That motion passes with a vote of 7-0. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to address council regarding resolution 2021-1, please do so now.
Seeing and hearing none, Madam President, I'd like to move to adopt 2021-1. Ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt resolution 2021-1 made by Councilman Schuman, seconded by Councilman Broussard. Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuman?
Yes.
Mr. Broussard?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Ms. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Resolution 2021-1 is adopted with a vote of 7-0.
Ordinance 2021-2, introduced by Mayor Kennedy. An ordinance authorizing the Director of Human Resources to request proposals from qualified individuals to provide nuisance abatement services for 2021, and further authorizing the mayor, subject to approval of the Board of Control, to enter into an agreement with the individual selected in the RFP process and declaring an emergency. Legislation on first reading. Resolution 2021-4, a resolution authorizing the city engineer to advertise for bids for the award of a contract to provide asphalt resurfacing and related repairs upon city streets as detailed in specifications on file in the Division of Engineering, and authorizing the mayor, following approval of the Board of Control, to contract for the same with the lowest and best bidder.
Madam President,
Mayor.
I'd like to introduce, place on first reading.
Thank you.
Resolution 2021-5, a resolution authorizing the city engineer to advertise for bids for the award of a contract to provide crack sealing on various streets at various locations in the city as detailed in the specifications on file in the Division of Engineering, and authorizing the mayor, following approval of the Board of Control, to contract for the same with the lowest and best bidder.
Madam President,
Mayor.
I'd like to introduce, place on first reading.
Thank you.
Resolution 2021-6, a resolution authorizing the city engineer to advertise for bids for the award of a contract to provide new pavement markings to various streets and locations in the city as detailed in the specifications on file in the Division of Engineering, and authorizing the mayor, following approval of the Board of Control, to contract for the same with the lowest and best bidder.
Madam President,
Okay.
I'd like to introduce, place on first reading.
Thank you.
Resolution 2021-7, a resolution authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids for rock salt for roadway ice and snow removal for use by the city of North Olmsted as detailed in the specifications on file, and further authorizing the mayor, after approval by the Board of Control, to enter into a contract with the lowest and best bidder.
Madam President,
Mayor.
introduce, place on first reading.
Thank you.
Resolution 2021-8, a resolution authorizing the mayor to purchase two 2021 Ford Explorer Police Interceptor vehicles at a cost of $65,473.20 through the state purchase program, and further authorizing the mayor to execute all contract documents and declaring an emergency.
Madam President,
Mayor.
I'd like to introduce, place on first reading, and request suspension of the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review.
Madam President,
Councilman Broussard.
I move to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review, as this was thoroughly vetted out during the budget process and is an issue of timing, and I'll ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review made by Councilman Broussard, seconded by Councilwoman Williamson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Broussard,
Yes.
Ms. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn,
Yes.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Ms. Seaman,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman.
Yes.
That motion passes with a vote of 7-0. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to address council regarding Resolution 2021-8, please do so now.
Seeing none, hearing none, Madam President, I move to adopt Resolution 2021-8 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt Resolution 2021-8 made by Councilman Broussard, seconded by Councilwoman Williamson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Broussard,
Yes.
Ms. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn,
Yes.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Ms. Seaman,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
Resolution 2021-8 is adopted with a vote of 7-0.
Resolution 2021-9, a resolution authorizing the mayor to apply for an assistance to firefighters grant for the purpose of obtaining funds to acquire two diesel exhaust removal systems for fire stations 1 and 2, and further authorizing the mayor, if the application is granted, to enter into an agreement with the appropriate agency to accept said grant funds and declaring an emergency.
Madam President,
Mayor.
I'd like to introduce, place on first reading, and request suspension of the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review.
Madam President,
Councilman Broussard.
I move to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review as this was discussed during caucus, and I'll ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review made by Councilman Broussard, seconded by Councilwoman Williamson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Broussard,
Yes.
Ms. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn,
Yes.
Ms. Seaman.
Yes.
That motion passes with a vote of 7-0. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to address council regarding Resolution 2021-9, please do so now.
Seeing none, hearing none, Madam President, I move for the adoption of Resolution 2021-9 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt Resolution 2021-9 made by Councilman Broussard, seconded by Councilwoman Williamson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Broussard,
Yes.
Ms. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn,
Yes.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Ms. Seaman,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman.
Yes.
Resolution 2021-9 is adopted with a vote of 7-0.
Resolution 2021-10, a resolution authorizing the mayor to purchase a combination jet vacuum machine and equipment at a final cost of $465,000 from Jack Doheny Company, all through the state purchase program, and further authorizing the mayor to execute all documents necessary to effectuate such purchase.
Madam President,
Mayor,
I'd like to introduce, place on first reading.
thank you.
Resolution 2021-11, a resolution establishing a program for financial assistance for small businesses in the city of North Olmsted and declaring an emergency.
Madam President,
Councilwoman Heeman.
I'd like to introduce, place on first reading, and request suspension of the rules requiring 3 readings. This was discussed in our caucus this evening and reported out earlier during committee report. This is something that businesses need very much in regard to their welfare, public welfare, and financial assistance, as well as offering them assistance during the pandemic for public safety. Thanks for a second.
I second the motion, Madam President.
Motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review made by Councilwoman Heeman, seconded by Councilman Glassburn. Roll call, please.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes, with comment. Numerous communities in Cuyahoga County, as well as Northeast Ohio, have already introduced, vetted, collected applications, and made awards for programs like 2021-11. We have chosen to emulate the successful Avon Lake program, but there are many others. We have seen businesses in North Olmsted go under every week. Now is the time to act as fast as we can to help businesses survive this spring and into the summer. Thank you, Madam President.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Schuman?
No, with comment. It sounded to me like both the mayor and the finance director had additional questions that I didn't really hear answers to. And I would really prefer we work all those out before we vote on this. I'd love to have a committee meeting about it. Thank you.
Mr. Broussard?
No with comment. My no vote is strictly related to the request for suspension and not the merits of the proposal. And just based on our discussion during caucus, I agree that it appears that several people still have questions about details of the program. Thank you.
Mr. Limpert?
No.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
That motion fails 4-3. Moving into scheduling our committee meetings for next Tuesday, January 26th. Councilwoman Williamson.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to call a Building, Zoning, and Development Committee meeting at 7 p.m. to discuss 2020-77 and 2020-145. I would request our Mr. Grusenmeyer be present for any additional questions, our HR director, and the mayor's designee, if necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Limpert.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to call a Streets and Transportation Committee meeting on that same night at 7:30. And I would ask that the mayor or his designee be present to discuss resolutions 2020-6, 2020-7, 2020 excuse me, it's a new year, 2021-6, 2021-7, 2021-5, and thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilwoman Heeman.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to schedule an Environmental Control Committee meeting for 7:40 to discuss 2021-10, and the mayor or his designee, please, to be present. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President.
Yes, Councilman Limpert.
Just for the record, I forgot we're also going to discuss 2021-4. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilwoman Heeman, can you give an approximate end time? To 2021-11 will go into finance then, following your committee.
How about 7:50? 7:40 to 7:50.
Thank you. Councilman Schuman.
So I'll have a finance committee to discuss 2021-11 at 7:50. Is that correct? and I'm fairly confident we can get these details worked out. Thank you.
Thank you. With the agenda being complete and there being no further business to come before council, this meeting of January 19th, 2021 is adjourned at 8:45 p.m.